Okay. All right. Good evening. I would like to call the Planning and Zoning meeting of Carroll County. For some reason, I'm getting feedback. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too. If everyone can mute themselves, it's not speaking. I think, Laura, you're unmuted, and the control room as well.
Okay.
And
right.
Caller 1 could also identify themselves when we get started.
Okay.
This is Luke Klosek. I'm 310. I don't know if I'm caller 1. Sorry, I'm only able to hop on the call here.
You're caller 1. Okay, thanks, Luke.
Okay.
Okay. If you could mute Luke, that would be great.
Okay, I'm muted on my phone. Not sure if I'm still coming through.
You are, but I'm not. It's all right. You're perfect now. Thank you. Okay. I'd like to call the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Carroll County, November 2nd, 2022, to order. And I'd like to welcome everybody. I am the vice chair, Janice Kirkner. Jeff Weathers, our chair, could not be with us tonight. So I call the meeting to order and welcome everybody. So if we could establish a quorum, Laura.
Mr. Wathers? Ms. Kirkner?
Here.
Mr. Lester? Mr. Huff?
Here.
Mr. Kane?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Klosek? Luke, we see that he's here, right? Commissioner Wance? And Secretary Eisenberg?
Here.
Ms. Chair, please let the record reflect that 5 members are present and we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if we could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? And if so, I'd like to entertain an approval.
You approve the agenda?
And
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
The agenda stands approved as read. Okay. Secretary Eisenberg.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And Madam Chair, thank you for chairing the meeting for us this evening. Also, just as a reminder, Mr. Klosek, you can vote this evening because we do not have a full board. So just, wanted to make you aware of that, that your participation, you're allowed to vote this evening. Just a few things for administrative matters I want to bring to your attention. FYI, the month of December, the Carroll County Department of Planning will be working 100% remotely. We're having some office renovations in our ceiling that's occurring, so we need to vacate our space. It's going to be a 4 plus or minus week project, so we will be vacated from our current office space the month of December, but we will be in for meetings. That does not change an in-person planning commission meeting, doesn't change anything for any of our operations, but just wanted to make you aware in case you needed to pop by and do anything, that our offices will be closed, but if we need to meet in person other than our scheduled planning commission, we can make arrangements to meet in the county office building at any time. Next, coming up, especially for our new members, November this month is our administrative rules month, and also the month where we vote for the chair and vice chair. And we also set up our dates for the next calendar year, starting in January of 23. So Laura has prepared that and forwarded that to you all for your review. We're not going to go over it tonight, but just to give some thoughts. So when we do have our next meeting, you see the dates. And if you have any conflicts that you know of already, to perhaps let us know, or if you feel like as a consensus certain dates don't work. Typically, we try to avoid, the week of Thanksgiving. We tend to move up that meeting if it coincides. The week of Christmas, if it coincides, we typically move up that meeting. July 4th week, we typically cancel that meeting. This year, July 5th is our Wednesday night meeting. It's very challenging for various reasons to have that meeting. But we'll be going over all of that at our November business meeting. Next, our December meeting is going to be 1 week earlier than normal. And again, because of the holiday break that we have for the Christmas holiday. So you'll see that that's the same as it was in past years. So look for that as well, changing. And then for administrative rules and procedures, we don't really have anything. One of our items on the agenda this evening may result in that. We'll see based on our discussion, and we'll go over that with our presentation. But typically, we've had some concerns in the past where we've made adjustments to our administrative rules, things that have come up over the calendar year that were unanticipated or our rules didn't account for, and we've made those adjustments. I don't think we have anything like that this year. I don't anticipate us making any changes unless someone has a change from the floor that they want to recommend. But I think we're going to be keeping the rules as is for now. So that is all I have for my administrative report this evening.
Excuse me, Linda, I can't remember if you mentioned the November 30th meeting that we will not be having.
No, thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. Also, we're canceling the November 30th, which is our 5th additional work session meeting. We're going to instead cancel that and keep the December 7th. We just don't have enough items for an agenda. Thanks, Laura. Janice, you're muted.
It helps. Okay. Item 6, the Historic Preservation Commission briefing. Is that Hannah?
Yes, that will be Hannah, but before she gets started, and Hannah will go over all this in her presentation. I'm just going to kind of tee it up for her. So Hannah is our county staff to the Historic Preservation Commission. About 1.5 years, 2 years ago, HPC was completely transferred to the Department of Planning. Planning has always played a staff role to the Historic Preservation Commission. And it was housed under administrative hearings, which is under the county attorney's office and the county administrator directly. And Joe Vance was the main lead to that. So it didn't make sense to have 2 different departments manage this organization. And we were doing a lot of work with them. So we absorbed their functions. So now that is completely housed in planning. We had already done the historic preservation planning portion. So it just made sense to carry the HPC with that. But as you know, with many boards and commissions, even such as this board and commission, it's really hard to keep membership. With changes, it's hard to bring on new members. And it's hard to keep a small membership that doesn't have a wide breadth of duties and responsibilities energized to keep moving forward. And that's where we are with the Historic Preservation Commission. One of their members is going to be leaving in November. Hannah will go over that more so. And they'll be down to 3 members with 4 openings. And instead of trying to fill those openings again in the community for a volunteer position, we thought it may be beneficial to have the conversation with you all and the Board of County Commissioners of transferring the duties and responsibilities of the Historic Preservation Commission to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And we'll again get into more of that. I had talked to both Mr. Walters, the chair of this commission, and the chair, Edwin Gregg from the Historic Preservation Commission. We had a meeting. I've talked with the commissioners briefly about this. one-on-one, and we're going before them in open session tomorrow to have a discussion with the board and have them vote whether they want to forward that as a recommendation, just like we do with any text amendment. So the HPC, the membership and their powers are actually found under our zoning code. So because of that, the way that the county code is written, all changes to the zoning code must come from the Board of County Commissioners to be referred to the Planning Commission for your review and recommendation. So we're going before the board tomorrow to speak with them regarding that and to get to their input on whether they would like to move the Board and Commission under the Historic Preservation Commission. And with that, I also want to recognize that Ed Gregg has joined our meeting, and he is the current chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. And as I said, he and Jeff Wathers, myself, Hannah, and the county attorney, Jamal, all met together to have a discussion about what this transition would look like, what it means, and how we would move forward if that is the direction of the board, the recommendation of this body, and change of code. So with that lengthy introduction, I'm going to hand it over to Hannah Weber to present to you what all of this means and give you some additional insight. And then we'll be talking about this more if we move ahead from the Board of County Commissioners. Thanks, Hannah.
Yes, so thank you, Linda. Let me pull up my presentation. So as Linda explained, the Historic Preservation Commission is struggling with retaining members. And as Linda said, she gave the spiel on kind of why we're here. I'm kind of going to go into what the Historic Preservation Commission is, what their responsibilities are, and things of that nature. So is everyone able to see my screen? Okay. So there's no action required tonight. This is just an introduction into the discussion. So the purpose of the HPC, their purpose is to foster and safeguard the heritage of the county by preserving sites, structures, and districts of historic significance inside the Historic District Overlay, or the HDO. The commission decides whether to grant requests for exterior changes to a property inside the HDO after a hearing on the application. As Linda mentioned, the HPC rules and regulations are found in the county zoning ordinance under chapter 158095, and it's found under the Historic District Overlay chapter. So in the county, the only place where the Historic District Overlay covers is the Historic District of Uniontown. So this means that any resident that falls in the Historic District Overlay must apply for a work permit to be approved by the HPC. So basically, any person that lives in the Historic District of Uniontown will apply to have a work permit, say if they want to have a renovation on their windows, a tree removal, or things like that, that would have to be approved by the HPC. So the HDO is this purple area. It's approximately 156 acres and includes approximately 100 properties. And just Historic District of Uniontown is listed on both the National and the County Historic Register. So Linda mentioned this at the top, but the HPC currently only has 3 active members. So it's been a struggle to get new members and retain the members we do have. And we need the members to obviously have a commission to be able to serve the residents of Uniontown. So some benefits of transitioning the HPC to the Planning Commission authority would be that the Planning Commission has more than double the number of board members that the HPC has. So this would prevent the likelihood of not having enough HPC members available when a resident needs to have an application approved. Also, the Planning Commission has more of a public following, which could prove beneficial in public awareness of the HPC, their role, and the importance of historic preservation overall. And then lastly, more public awareness of the HPC could possibly lead to the expansion of the Historic District Overlay to similar historic districts such as Uniontown. So that's it for my very quick presentation. As Linda said, we have time scheduled with the commissioners coming up. And then if that all moves forward, we will be back in front of you at your November business meeting for more discussion.
And so the reason we wanted to do this tonight is we didn't want this body hearing about it as an agenda item from the commissioners and us not having come to talk to you to give you the heads up as a total planning commission that this was happening. I know that Edwin Gregg is on the line. Mr. Gregg, do you want to offer anything else with regard to this discussion this evening?
But I want to clarify something. I was under the impression that the commissioner, this is going before the commissioners next week, not this week. Is that correct?
That might have been my bad.
Yeah, we're going.
Sorry.
Yeah,
My fault.
the 10th.
I have like 5 items in front of the board tomorrow. I truly apologize. I can't keep it all straight in my head.
It all runs
apologize.
together.
Next week.
Next week, because I plan to be there. Just a little overview. Everything that Hannah said is very accurate, and we had some perspective. We try to encourage residents of Uniontown to join commission, and part of the problem is we've only got one right now who is a resident. I would love to see more, and we've endeavored to get more on the board. But one thing that I want to point out that I'm not sure many people know the numbers, but the Historic Preservation Commission, if you read the code, also says that we should also be advisory for other historic sites in Carroll County. And we've never really gotten very involved with that. And but I think it's interesting to note this. In Carroll County, first of all, an inventory of historic properties is over 800 separate sites are on the inventory of potential historic sites. I say potential because, and these are tough screenings to get on this inventory. First of all, it's a 10-page inquiry. And what the inventory says is these potentially can then move on to actually a recognition at a national status, that is the National Register of Historic Places. So we have over 850 historic sites that have been identified and validated in Carroll County. Number two, we have 50 houses, or sites, I should say, not necessarily all houses, that are on the National Register of Historic Places in Carroll County. Neither of these do we have any purview over, but it's important to recognize that they are also out there. And being on the National Register means they've gone the next step past an inventory listing and have actually been recognized as historically significant. And then we have 12 historic districts. I'm not sure if everybody understands that. We're just one of those 12. And we're one of the few. The reason why we have a commission is because of when Uniontown was codified as a historic district in county code, it was included that there be an administrative function which created the Historic Preservation Commission. I'm also aware that Westminster's Historic Commission exists to monitor their activities in the city of Westminster. But there are other places I'm not sure. Sykesville has a historic district. Tawnytown has a historic district. And are you ready for this? Linwood is a historic district. So is McKinstry Mills, a historic district. That means they're on the National Register, but it's more than one site collected together. Like Uniontown is 70 some, a little over 70 residences. Every one of those could go on the National Register and be on there, but instead they included them as a large district. So there's a lot out there involved with historic preservation beyond just our Historic Preservation Commission. I'm not suggesting that we go and be proactive and start grabbing things out there. I'm just saying that there are things that, for example, if somebody on the inventory decides they would like to go and be nominated to go on the National Register, we could help them with that, at least guide them into the proper people that would then document it and go through the procedure through the state of Maryland and the Secretary of Interior in Washington. So those are the kinds of things we can do, as well as advise on existing properties. 850 on the inventory, a lot of historic properties. So that's a little overview of historic preservation in Carroll County. Any questions?
Thank you so much. I find it very insightful, and you have such a great knowledge of all things historical and building. It's really wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
I appreciate your speaking up about that, because that's not something that's been in our purview, although it's very interesting. So I think it'll be interesting to see what the commissioners say. Matt, do you have anything on that? No? Okay. Michael?
Go ahead, Evan.
I'd like to add one. I was wanted to add one other thing, and that was about 2 or 3 years ago. Commissioner Steve Wance was approached by some citizens, and they were concerned about whether it was recognized. I don't remember where the site was recognized by the county as historic, and so he got together the commission, and we sat down and discussed. Perhaps, and I think Tim Burke was there too, to give us legal guidance that said it was within our mandate to at least give advice and to advise for historic sites throughout Carroll County. So at least, and I'm not sure if Steve Wance, Commissioner Wance, had reviewed that with his fellow commissioners, but that was agreed to about 3 years ago. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Thank you. Michael, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, actually, Edwin clarified what I was going to ask with his statements right there. But I guess to summarize, since I'm a newbie, relatively newbie, to keep this straight in my head. So each of the municipalities, Westminster, Mount Airy, et cetera, they have their own historic preservation commissions or committees. And then
each has like a designated historic district, and
Right.
I'm pretty sure they all have commissions that oversee those districts.
And then since Uniontown fell outside of those, it fell under the county. Got it. Okay. All right. That makes sense. Thank you.
And that's because each municipality has their own local land use authority. So, that just falls under their common council and how they are chartered. And this is not an incorporated, Uniontown's not incorporated, and it falls under the county. Yep.
Okay.
But that does raise the question about Linwood and McKinstry's Mill, which are not incorporated areas at all, and they are a historic district. And I have not researched it yet, but it's interesting to find that when that was put in as a historic district, that there was no administrative group to monitor that.
Well, that's something for future, I suspect. Stephen, I saw you go green. Is there something you wanted to add?
No. I just went green so I could add that I didn't want.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Edwin. Do we have any callers on? I don't see anybody, I don't think.
And by the way, call me Ed. Ed is fine, not Edwin. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ed. Gotcha. Chris, do we have anybody on?
We have no callers online.
All right. Then thank you, Hannah, for the presentation, and we look forward to hearing how it turns out. So the meeting is next Thursday, the 10th?
Next Thursday in open session. Yes, correct. Thank you for correcting me.
That's okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. I guess next is the Water and Sewer Master Plan Fall Amendment. So that is right. There you go.
Yes, good evening, Controller. Could I have Control, if I can share my screen, please? Can everybody see that? All right. So as you're probably used to by now, this is the fall amendment to our water and sewer master plan. We do amendments twice a year. This is the fall one that we're doing. And just so you know, we are not going to do one in the spring because we are trying to finalize the triennial update, which is every 3 years. So we're going to forgo the spring amendment coming up and hopefully have by late spring, early summer, the triennial update for the overall Carroll County water and sewer master plan in front of you to look over and certify consistency. So this has, we have a couple of map amendments and one amendment for the chapters. The maps contain for Freedom Sykesville Water and Sewer, the Hampstead Water and Sewer Service Area, Manchester Water, and then the City of Westminster updated their chapter. So here is the Freedom, one of the first ones in the Freedom area. These 4 properties, which are 371, 373, and 411, and the big property 222, our partial 222, are under contract by St. John's Properties, and they requested to be brought into the water service or the sewer service area. I'm sorry. These properties, when you do the calculations, and there's more in-depth information in the package that I sent out, or that Laura sent out, the estimated demand for these properties is 8,400 gallons total for all 4 properties. And this demand is able to come in because of the unutilized portion of demand for the Zabel properties when those were brought in less intense than we had thought. Again, we have 4 additional properties. This is Liberty Road and Cleve Mill Road. The owners of these properties came forward requesting for these properties to come in. 3 of the 4, actually 2 of the 4 are currently have structures on them and are being utilized. The top portion, the top triangle, is where I believe it was a barbecue restaurant burned down roughly 4 or 5 years ago. And then the big parcel at the bottom near what is known as Long Reach Farms, which I brought in front of this commission, I believe it was last year. That property was purchased to hopefully identify and be able to put additional septic on. The septics in this area, they are having issues. They've replaced them multiple times and they've tried to repair them. It's to the point where unfortunately they're not able to do much anymore. And that property where the big parcel where they hoped they were able to actually put the additional septics on, the PERCs came back and did not show what they were looking for. So they are requesting for these 4 properties to come in, and they are actually requesting 5,600 gallons for all 4 parcels. That is a little bit more than what these parcels would estimate the demand would be. However, with existing uses already in play, both being restaurants, as well as a shell building on the front portion, and any potential that could come down the road, 5,600 gallons is what would work and be best for them. They did talk with our Department of Utilities, and they verified that yes, 5,600 gallons would suffice for what they could potentially do to cover the 3 existing buildings and any redevelopment of the 2 end parcels. This parcel right here was an emergency connection. I've talked with the landowners, and after they purchased the property, they began having issues with their septic system. And when they looked at trying to either replace it, there was not enough area that had suitable perks. So they actually are they were under contract for a while to have a septic company come out and pump their septic system out twice a month. This property, I believe, is already connected. So this is just after the fact, since it was an emergency connection, we went ahead, talked with the health department and MDE, and they were okay with them going ahead to connect, knowing that we were going to amend the plan, showing them to come into the system. So as you can see, this is the Cleve Mill Road properties for Cleve Mill Road, also known as the Tevis properties. I see my circle decided to move a little bit. This is the St. John's properties, and right here is the one residential property on Linton Road. At the same time, they decided, since they were actually going to have their yard messed up, it'd be beneficial for them to go ahead and tie into water. So talking with utilities, they were okay with letting them connect. And as you can see, there's a line that already ran down. All the connections were in the road. So all they had to do was connect at the property line. And again, for the water, it's right up here. Westminster came to us. They did a total update to their chapter 15 their water chapter and the table for their water demands. This is based on, and I guess you've probably seen some in the news, where they were doing a pilot study for water reuse of the wastewater from the sewer treatment plant. That pilot study has now been complete, and they are in the process of continuing to move forward with working with MDE as they design and hopefully complete the permitting process. With this update, what they did, and you'll see I'll skip ahead real quick and I'll go back. Sorry if I'm making you a little seasick here. What that did in Westminster is they already had 500,000 gallons in priority and 500,000 gallons in the future planning area due to two projects they were looking to do in Little Pipe Creek and the Big Pipe Creek. Those projects now are on the back burner since this pilot study did so well. However, those 500,000 gallons were still there. So what we did, working with them and working with MDE, we added a footnote 11, stating that the Westminster Water Reuse Facility, Phase 1, engineering construction is complete. So 500,000 gallons is included. Phase 2, construction complete, and reevaluate water allocation under future planning is 500,000 gallons. So even though they're adding 500,000 gallons, is existing demand or capacity that is already there due to the fact that they had two projects that already had those in both areas, and they chose to move a different direction. So I will go back real quick, and this is this town of Manchester. They came to us. This is more of a map amendment, although it did change their demand calculations just a little bit. There's 3 properties. Hopefully you can see my cursor. This backwards P right here, as well as this long portion right here on the southern portion. Those were both current. They were shown as existing. Neither of these properties are connected currently, and there are no plans to connect at all in the future. So they requested those to be removed from the service area, put in the long range. So that recouped a little bit of demand, roughly just shy of 1,000 gallons. So at the table, as you may see, the way our calculations are done in decimal points, it dropped by 1,000 gallons. The property that is sandwiched in between that is the dark blue, that property actually is currently served. It was not shown currently served in the current maps. So we're just showing that currently served. That usage is actually already captured in our existing or present day planning for water. So those calculations are already in there. So that does not affect anything at all. And again, you'll see this is right above what I call the Lippy Brothers property, right across the street from Manchester Valley High. And then finally, we have the Hampstead Water and Sewer Service area. This property, this is known as Lizzie's Lockers. It is currently shown and has existing water. They are looking to build a small restroom for the management office. So they needed to be brought into the system so they could connect. They were in future. Now we're just bringing them into priority so they can go ahead and get that built and connect, so that demand from future will move to priority. However, it's so minimal, it doesn't affect the tables. It's just, but it has been moved. And then this is the formerly known as the Solo Cup property, also known as the Dark property. Now it is the Penguin Random House property. They are looking to annex into the town of Hampstead, and they are currently served by sewer, which is overseen by the county itself. They requested to, and actually the town had requested for them to come into the system due to the annexation coming up. But although this property is large and it's 52 acres with a potential demand of 41,000 gallons plus, the information that we used and the demand that we used for water is based on the existing sewer, which we did an average over the last 5+ years, which it came in below 500 gallons per day. However, we put in 500 gallons per day. Should they increase a little bit? There is a note that we did put in the table 15, that states that the priority water demand is based on a 500 gallon per day average for sewer, and should a change of use occur, which requires a greater demand, reevaluation of the town's capacity is needed to ensure the town is able to supply this increased demand. So that was put in there in essence. Should Penguin Random House either really ramp up their production, their production when it comes to storage of warehousing books and all the other things that they have, but they need to increase their employee demand greatly, or should they leave and something comes in that may utilize a lot more water? This is our safeguard to let them know that yes, even though it shows you're an existing, you're only based on 500 gallons per day. So we need to reevaluate, and this gives the town the ability to say, okay, at this point in time, we may not have the ability to give any greater than 500 gallons a day, or yes, we can increase, and then we would do that and add, we would update table 15. So as you saw, we've updated the maps, we've done demand calculations, and the town of Manchester on October 18th, their planning commission certified consistency with their master plans. The city of Westminster at their October 20th planning commission meeting certified consistency at their plans, And on October 26th, the town of Hampstead certified consistency with their master plan. So the next step for me, I'll actually be briefing the Board of County Commissioners on Thursday on December the 8th, because I want to brief the new board, and it'll be a more in-depth briefing since this is going to be 4 new members. And then we will also request a public hearing, which most likely will probably be in January, depending on how we're able to get things done with the Mako conference coming up and all that. So the briefing for the Board of County Commissioners will be December 8th. And again, that'll be with the new commission. So this evening, what I'm looking for, the recommended motion is for the Carroll County Planning and Zoning Commission to certify that the recommended amendments to the 2019 Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan are consistent with the 2014 County Master Plan as amended 2019 and the 2018 Freedom Community Comprehensive Plan. That is it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any questions. I think it's pretty straightforward, but I do want to state that the three of the properties in Sykesville, 311, 411, 373, and 371, I was a party to helping the sellers sell that property. I have no further engagement there on that, but did want that to be acknowledged. And I guess, Stephen, I see you have your green light on.
No, I'm good. I just turned it on in case we needed a vote. That's all.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else from the commission have anything they want to say? Okay. Do we have any public that has a question? Okay. Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion, I guess, that we certify this. So the recommended motions before you. Matt?
I'll make a motion that we certify the recommended amendments to the 2019 Water and Sewer Master Plan.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Any other questions? Okay. Then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. And
Do we hear from Luke? Do we have enough members vote? I recorded Mr. Kane, Mr. Huff, Mr. Smith. Mr. Klosek, did you want to vote on this measure? Mr. Klosek?
Yes, sorry, you guys have me muted, so I can't say aye. So aye.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're in favor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Then I think it stands approved, and we will forward that to the commissioners.
Great, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, is there any general public comment?
There appears to be no general public that I
Okay.
see in the meeting this evening.
Right, me neither. Okay, then I think that makes it an evening for us. So if somebody would like to make a motion to adjourn, I'm happy to entertain it.
I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. All righty. Okay. I assume all are in favor. So, all right.
Aye.
Thank you all. And we'll see you on the 15th. Thank you.
All right. See you guys then.